Hello, 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 and welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we are happy you are with us today.
Yes, we are. We are actually pre-recording our show, so we won't be able to answer you back, but we promise you that we'll look at any comments you put in the chat after it's already aired and talk back to you. We love to talk back.
You know, it's as if we're doing it in Australia because it's like 12:30 Australia time right now in the afternoon. So we're pretending that we're doing our show on time in a different time zone.
Ah, there you go. I thought you were trying to help me promo our new show.
Well, that can work too. You got a show in Australia happening.
That's right. I'll be doing a show starting in the next month. Up in next month, called Girls Behaving Metaphysically with my partner, Natasha Wilson, Dr. Natasha Wilson.
Wow.
And she is in Australia, and I am in the U.S., and we are one.
So it wasn't enough to have me 3-4 states away. You needed to get somebody multiple countries away to work with.
Baby, I'm all about the long distance relationships. You know, I am all about proving oneness, no matter where, how, and what it looks like. So for those of you that don't know, Gil and I are married, and we actually live in different states right now. He is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I am in Oakland, California. Why, you ask? You'll have to listen to previous podcasts to find out.
That's all right.
Today, our topic is love means never having to say you're sorry. So we're going to pursue what that means in a little bit. But before that, how has your week been, Mr. Olmsted?
How's my week been? My week has been entertaining as usual. I did a really fun thing, though. Pardon me. On Sunday afternoon, I went and saw a 3D showing of the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park.
Wowee.
Man, who knew, right? And yeah. I got to see the spots in Kauai that we saw when we were on the movie tour and go, wow. Yeah, that's where that was. That's the table.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow, 30 years of Jurassic Park, and they're still making them, right?
Yeah, there's been one fairly recently. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, quite interesting story. The thing that was kind of interesting about it was I thought it held up pretty darn well. Pretty darn well. It was a good story. It's well done. And, whatever you want to say about graphics and all that stuff, I'm not so sure that everything is all that much better. It was done really well. So anyway, that was just a fun thing to do. And I decided to do it the day before. So I bought my ticket and had everything ready. And after Sunday morning stuff, I hung out for a while and then I went to the theater in the afternoon. It was fun.
I just want to take a moment. I just want to take a moment to ask our producer, do you have a disclaimer that says Gil is not from Hollywood? Clearly that review and his description of graphics would make some editors, people, special effects people shudder.
Well, they got to deal with the real people, so.
Yes, we do. Well, that sounds super fun. That does sound fun. It sounds, I don't know, it sounds like the way I imagine life, like a relaxing day. You go to the movies and you have time to see a 3D movie from 30 years ago. It's great. No, really, I really think that's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
My week has been, it's the same as every week. It's super busy. It's overfilled. And there's teenagers involved. So it is an opportunity for growth and patience. And I don't know. I began to have some inkling of why people lock their kids in closets. I mean, I'm not condoning that behavior, but I mean, there's just those moments where you go, oh my God, what do you, and you can't, what to do. You have to love them through it and hope that you survive it.
Yeah. yeah, many years ago, the advice to me was that, the whole idea of raising teenagers is to get them to 18 alive. And what I've come to realize is that had more depth and meaning than I realized.
Yeah.
And it's not just us that I'm talking about. I'm talking about, various people in their sense of, geez, just get them to 18 and then hopefully they'll start figuring it out, so.
Yeah. And the promising sign is like when they're with other people can't stop saying how great they are. It's like,
right.
Good. Okay, great. So, I figure it's just, it's like, I don't know, it's like the, 10-year initiation into parenthood.
Yeah. But it's kind of like your husband, right? Everyone else says how great I am, but then
I know the truth of who you really are.
That's right.
I think you're pretty great. I really do. I think you're pretty great. I think we're all pretty great. It's all an opportunity to grow and to learn. And I think that's some of what we'll talk about today, right?
Yeah.
So let's not waste time. Let's get to the good news.
The good news.
This is our segment where we say something good going on in the world, because if we hold a positive thought, it can't be denied. So we're looking for the good news. So what do you got?
Well, I have a couple. I'm gonna start with one, which is a story of a high school shop where they often repair. They do work on vehicles as part of their learning process, and they often work on families' vehicles, etc. But they found out about a family that had gotten a Jeep, and started working on it. And the whole point was because the father of the household had been diagnosed with cancer, and he knew he wasn't going to be around too long, and he wanted to do a project with his sons. But then he died, and the kids just couldn't even look at it, hardly. Well, this group got wind of it, and they actually came and got the car, and they invested a whole lot of time and quite a bit of money on their own, actually, to do what needed to be done, and eventually delivered it back in pristine, beautiful condition. And I think, even if I read it right, the woman had gone to high school at the same high school
as the dad.
So it was kind of cool. So anyway, I thought that was just one of those feel-good stories where somebody hears something and says, well, this is something we could do. That's something we could contribute right there. And, is it earth-shattering that these people have a restored 69 Jeep? No. But it's pretty cool that somebody cared enough to care about their feelings about it to make it happen for them.
Well, yeah. And the symbolism, right? I mean, it wasn't going to be earth-shattering at the end of them building it with their father either. But now it's such a symbol.
Right.
Many things in my metaphysical mind.
Many things.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. But I came across another one. Do you want me to share it right now?
If you want to.
Okay. All right. So this story is that apparently Mr. Rogers had it right. If you greet your neighbors, you have higher satisfaction in your life. Fascinating thing. They factored all the different areas of your life and, got people to scale them all on a 1 to 100 scale. If people said hello to one neighbor a day, they on average had 2 points higher satisfaction in their life. And this occurred with 2 points for every person until they hit 6 people. And at 6 people, it kind of maxed out. Unless they separated the things out, and then the financial well-being and feeling of well-being continued to increase until you hit about saying hello to 11 neighbors. So
wow,
it continued climbing. But it was it's fascinating, because Mr. Ross, howdy, say hi to everyone in the neighborhood, greet your neighbors, be kind, be nice. And the reality is that's how we're built. I think that's kind of what it's saying, that we do feel better when we interact with people, when we are kind, when we reach out, that kind of stuff. But that one just really caught my eye. I thought it was cool.
That is cool. I mean, I think it's what comes up for me is we hear the same. It's almost like going to church, right? You hear the same message over and over and over, but it's just an affirmation of, this is it, people. This is all you have to do, and we want to make it so complicated, And that's one of the things about these good news stories. It's like, people that just did what they thought they should do, basically. You know? And it's just us showing up as our authentic self in some ways. So my story is about a 5-year-old boy in Portland, I believe, who he was with he's in Seattle. He was with his family in Hawaii on the Big Island when the fires broke out. And he heard about them, and then they said, well, we were at Lahaina in January, and because they had taken another trip. And so he kept asking about it all week. And when he got back from vacation, and they kept looking at the devastation on TV, and their son would ask him to turn it off because it was too sad. And he was really like emotionally connected to it. And he said, he immediately wanted to know what he could do to help. So he set up a lemonade stand like he saw one time in Colorado. And father thought it was a great idea. He stocked up on pink and yellow lemonade and some ice cream sandwiches and some candy and sparkling water and popsicles and stuff, thinking that, they live on a busy street. He'll make about $100 or whatever. So long story short, they made like $580 from the people that just stopped and visit them. And then she put it on her social media, and the parents both got their jobs to match it. And all in all, after the companies matched it and the, GoFundMe's or whatever came in, he raised $17,000. $17,000.
So single-handedly, a 5-year-old has accommodated a family for a couple, 3 months at least, going through this process of, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool at 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just so beautiful. He wanted to help the kids in Lahaina. So,
I want to grow up and be him.
Huh?
I want to grow up and be him.
You are him. Don't you understand? You are him. Okay, that's a whole nother show. All right. So when we come back, we are going to talk about love means never having to say you're sorry.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure of anything. Well,
okay. All right. But it is what we're going to talk about.
It is what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So we'll see you right back here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Home Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspired.
I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love. I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love. Here and now I can see I was made beautifully. I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love.
Wish we'd all stop acting like we're strangers if we could see underneath. We are one family, and it don't matter where you come from. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love, one love, one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one. What if we could?
And we're back.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gil.
And I'm Robyn. And this is Rockin the Love.
Absolutely.
Now, we're so happy you're here with us. So today we're talking about love means never having to say you're sorry. Do you remember that movie? What was it called? Love Story.
Yes.
Got it. Love Story with Ali McGraw and Ryan O'Neal.
I think the book came out in 68 or something, and the movie came out in 70.
No, I don't have it.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah. It's 1970.
Yeah. Many moons ago.
Yeah. I don't remember it. I don't know that I ever saw it. I don't know either. But nobody has escaped hearing the line. Nobody has escaped the catchphrase. Love means never having to say you're sorry. And in doing my research, they say it 2 times in the movie. So, and it's come up many times since then in many ways and with different versions, right? So yeah. What does that even mean to you? What does that mean to you?
Well, I was thinking about this, and on the surface, it means somehow that there's a place where someone can love someone else to the point where that other person doesn't have to apologize for anything because they are totally accepted for who they are and for who they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
That was one way to look at it. What about you?
Yeah, I think that that's the way they meant it, right? Was that there's this unconditional love that exists in a relationship. and you shouldn't have to ever apologize for anything. But I don't know if that's true. Do you think that's true?
Well, then I thought about another way of looking at it.
Okay.
And that is that if I love someone so much, then there isn't room for me to create situations to apologize for.
Mm.
I'm not sure that's accurate either, but that's another way of sort of interpreting it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's accurate either. I mean, at some level, that feels like you're presuming that, and I get that. So okay, let's start back at relationships, or relationship with somebody, and I think that being in any relationship, especially if we're talking about a partnership or a new friendship or somebody other than family, somebody other than you've grown up with them, since birth. I think there's so many variables. I mean, I think there's variables that way too, but it's a different thing because people know you in a different way. Whereas in my mind, I can't expect you to always know how something's gonna affect me.
Right. Yeah, because part of it is just
pretty clear you've proven that.
You think? I don't understand. Yes, and that's a really key point, is that so much of what we find ourselves apologizing for is apologizing for something that landed with someone else differently than we thought. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not even like we did anything, but something we did or said or whatever didn't sit well with them from their perspective,
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a really interesting point that you bring up. It comes up to that.
Yeah. And what comes up when you said that is it what we're apologizing for or where we're apologizing from?
That's a really good question. It's a really good question.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think, as I was looking at this topic and just thinking about it a little, I was like, I think this is all so dependent on the communication process in one's relationship, right? And each person's love language and their understanding of each other. I mean, it's so entwined in so many things. And like, if I'm just apologizing because, oh my God, I've hurt you and I want to make it stop, I don't know that that's going to work. You know what I mean? I don't know that, and by work, I mean that it's what the impact will be or how that will affect the relationship. But I think that on so many levels, I think that like apologizing and the forgiveness process is invaluable to a relationship. I think it builds a relationship, right?
Well, yes, because the whole idea of apologizing or sorry, in my understanding and estimation, is an acknowledgement of a mistake of some kind. And if one doesn't ever acknowledge mistakes, then someone, then another person in that relationship probably begins to feel like that person isn't very aware or willing to shift or interested. Right?
So, yeah, I think it's really important what you're saying. And I think it's important to break it down even more, because when I hear you say acknowledging a mistake, I hear that from, again, folks, remember we're a married couple. I hear that from a Gil Olmsted lens of, I made a mistake. I did it wrong. Because that's one of the things that comes up for you. And so I'm going to get a little metaphysical, because like can we make a mistake? And it's not that the mistake or that this happened. It's more, to me, it's more about, it's almost like, being a gardener and digging down to the root of the plant to pull it up. It's like, what's really underneath that, and why is the person feeling whatever they're feeling, and what is that happened? That's the transaction. It's not so much like, that you didn't take out the trash. It's then goes through my lens of whatever, you didn't care enough about me to take out the trash and I'm not valuable, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Did that make sense?
So it becomes about something. Often it's not about whatever the quote mistake is, if you will, whatever the misstep was. It's about the result or the resulting, I want to say injury, but that's not right. The resulting, the resulting hole that's been dug because of that. It's not so much that it itself was anything, but because of what it touched, it opened up something that now is more important. So if we say that, then we're saying that love doesn't mean never having to say you're sorry.
Well, I think so that brings up for me, I remember when I was young and like 9 or 10 years old, and as a kid, how one is always, at least me, and our kids are always like, sorry, and everything they do is like, sorry, you left your shoes there, sorry. And I remember one day my mom said to me, if you're sorry, then you need to change the behavior. And I was like, damn, that's a lot of work. I was like, what do you mean? I said sorry, but there was something about that I finally got, that like, if I say sorry, it's like, what does that really mean? What am I willing, how am I willing to, and I don't know, maybe on some level that speaks to forgiving myself, like, what am I willing to do to be in that heart space to really change it? And we've had that conversation before, like, of just about hearing what the other person really needs in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's times when you need something, and I can be like, sorry, but if I don't understand, if I'm not willing to sit through it and understand it, or come back to it and work with it, then it's just going to happen again, right?
So I found you remember the cartoon Love Is?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that started about 2 years after the movie, and one of the very first cartoons was, we had it up here. Here it is. Love is being able to say you're sorry. And it was sort of a response to that whole thing going on, because it created a lot of discussion. Love means you never have to say you're sorry, but love is being able to say you're sorry. And I think the key to that is, as you say, even deeper than quote saying you're sorry. It's being able to acknowledge something, to see something, to hear another person, to be open to a different way of seeing the thing, whatever it is. It's that whole idea of love is bigger than.
Yeah.
Love is really bigger than we can always stand in that place of being humble, because love is bigger than any appearance of my smallness or anything else. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you say that. I mean, I don't know. A lot of thoughts were going through my head, but so when with the love means never having to say you're sorry. You know, I think that it's important that it's not attached to like, disappointing each other. Because sometimes love means never having to say you're sorry because we should never disappoint another.
Mm-hmm. But at some level,
yeah,
if I'm really loving you, then how can you disappoint me? Because I'm holding it all in that space of love. If I were able to do that, as you know, not so well, but
there's some growth opportunity there.
We're talking theory here.
Let's just say we didn't pull this topic out of thin air. Yeah, but it is interesting because, like, I don't know. On one level, when we have a disagreement or an argument, or we're at odds with each other over something, at some level, we should inherently know that this is not really what we want. This is not the truth of our relationship or who we are. For crying out loud, we do a show called Rockin the Love and talk about how love is at the core of everything.
And relationship is everywhere.
And relationship is everywhere. And yet we have those human moments where we lose it. And so can we just take yesterday's example?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
It's just easier to point out your faults than mine. No, this wasn't horrible, but I was flustered. I had a bunch of meetings, and I was jumping on a meeting at Gil's church, and I called him. I'm like, and he had told me he was going to send me the link. I called him. I was like, I don't have the link. And I heard words come out of his mouth that I've never heard, because he's not one to throw around slang a lot, or any kind of profanities. And he was like, and I was like, okay. And I chose to just hang up because I was like, I don't know who you're talking to, but I'm not taking it. And so it brought this topic up, because I was like, then in my head afterwards, I was like, and then I didn't get the link, and I was texting him. I'm like, I'm not going to the meeting. You can just let people know I won't be there. But I wasn't trying to be anything. I just was like, I'm not going to sit here and stare at my computer waiting for a link. Anyway, but then I was like, and he needs to apologize. And then that's so interesting though, right? I mean, yeah, you did need to apologize. I mean, but basically for the reasons, mostly for the reason that you did apologize, because you weren't really talking to me. You were in a space where a whole lot of things were happening. I get that you were talking to me, but you weren't talking to me. And so that's the point of why I wanted to talk about it, because also sometimes our partners are a safe space to be able to offload that, because you weren't going to turn to your board president
to the people,
right, or your congregants and go, and so
heard that doesn't go well when ministers do that.
Yeah. Okay. So my point was that part of it is also in a relationship, we know that we're a safe space for each other. And so how can we hold that and balance it? And I guess we go to the 4 agreements, right? and not take it personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, I called you after the meeting and said, I'm sorry. But there, interesting, if I really am honest about it, there probably was a time when I wouldn't have done that because I would have expected you to freaking understand. And so you needed to get over it. And I didn't even have that thought. I just, it was like, yeah, that wasn't very nice. That was really not cool. And
I had that thought about you. You needed to understand and just freaking get over it. No, but that's interesting. That's well, and it's funny because when you called to apologize, or when you called, I had already decided when he calls, I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not in the mood, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm taking care of myself. I had, I had my own thing and could justify why. And the phone rang and rang and rang, just in its normal ring, 3 or 4 times. I was like, okay, hello, but I had to open up to the possibility of what you were going to say, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was part of my not thinking about not answering the phone was I wasn't really sure how I felt about it,
Well, you were pretty sure how you felt about it. And it wasn't real positive.
But yes and no. And this is what I always tell you, which plays into what you just said, because I always tell Gil when we're having this kind of conflict or something, I'm like, I'm on your team. I'm on your side. And I think that's an important thing in a relationship. It's like, can you ease into the space that the partner you've chosen or the friend, if it's a friendship, that they are there to be your ally, your friend. They're not there like, yeah, what can I do now? Mean, so if we trust that they're always coming from the best intention and they're coming from love, then on some level, it's just whatever was going on for them, or however it happens, there's some reason.
Well, right? It strikes me that even our relationship with spirit and the universe is a process of learning how to know and believe that we're on the same team, that the universe is conspiring for my good. Because otherwise I can keep expecting that somehow the world is going to repay me for all of this heartache and all of these things that have wronged me over my life, right? And that can happen in relationships where we build up a series of things, and it's like, you've got so much stuff you have to make up for, you might as well forget it.
Yeah, I hear you. And so what I was thinking about while you were saying that is that, I feel like we have learned, there's so many classes and things we've been taught. And so part of what came up from this conversation is fighting good in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Is it valuable? Because some say, yeah, you have to fight in a relationship, or it's not healthy, or it's healthy to fight in a relationship. It's good. And I think, as we say, I think it's all good. But I think much like, transparent communication or nonverbal communication or whatever, I don't think we know how to fight. I mean, we weren't fighting, so we've jumped to a new topic.
Yeah, I was going to say that wasn't that was more just throwing up all over the place.
No, well, but I think it's important because
it wasn't really a fight between us. It was just which could have become a fight.
But those are the things where you find yourself having to say sorry. I mean,
Right.
because we'll do that all the time. Like, in normal daily things, we'll be in a hurried state and we'll not call somebody back, or we'll not get something done for somebody, and we're like, sorry, you know what I mean? And I think it's important to look at, at what happens in a relationship when that happens. So, but back to my fighting thing, because I think fighting, disagreeing, some kind of, angst between each other, I think it's healthy. What do you think?
Well, I think because it's there, because there's just times when it's there. You can't be with somebody all the time. You can't be in a relationship of some kind where you're in a consistent, whether it's in a working relationship or whatever it is, where you're not going to run into those things that don't sit well, that you didn't agree on, that you wish somebody would have done differently, or, all that stuff. And if it becomes, we always talk as if everything is fine, then that stuff builds up to a point where now you have something that's not, it's not controllable, if you will. It's not, it can explode into something that now you can't really keep a handle on. Whereas if you deal with things as they come along that are a little bit uncomfortable and have disagreements and then work through them, then that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. So I think that, much like all the things we are learning and relearning it through, spiritual courses or spiritual messages, or, inspirational speakers, whatever, much of what we're learning, I feel like we haven't learned how to effectively fight. I feel like as like as a skill in relationships, we haven't learned how to effectively fight. And so things like just disrupt and, blow up. And I think that there is a way to effectively fight and bring that into a relationship, And I think that, I think it starts with listening, and communication, and an awareness and a discipline to be able to take a step back from whatever has been said, and take a breath and pay attention to what's been said, and then to move from there.
I think many people would characterize that really as effectively communicate. Effectively be able to communicate does not mean that everything is nice. There are things to communicate which are not easy, which are not necessarily going to be agreed upon, all that stuff. And if we can effectively communicate those things, then it's not so much about having the fight, it's about acknowledging the discomfort and working through it.
Well, yes. And I mean, I think effective communication should be at the core of every fight or discussion, right? And this is an acquired skill for most, right? Because it means really abandoning what I would have liked to have said back to you. Mm-hmm. Letting go of that thought or that retort or, that jab or whatever, and really like taking that breath and opting for, some kind of kind words, or, being that space to be able to listen and to hear. I mean, I knew in that moment there was no listening or hearing because you had a meeting that was happening right then. And so it wasn't going to happen there.
And you were the 14th thing that had come up, that I wasn't expecting and didn't know I was in charge of, per se.
Right.
In that kind of situation, that was kind of what was going on. And not only did I not know all that, I couldn't figure out how to handle all that. I couldn't get it together.
You couldn't fix it.
I couldn't fix it. That's right.
Fix it. And that's usually what happens in a relationship, right? There's something else going on. If I'm being, a bitch to you, it's probably, maybe not, but it's probably
usually my fault. It's
no, but you know what I mean? It's because something's happened at home or at work or whatever. I mean, there's always that basis.
Well, at the very least, it's whatever's gone on between, us or the primary parties and whatever this other stuff is.
Right.
Even if it's not, quote, all because of the other stuff, it's not all because of whatever's going on directly in that communication together, because there's other stuff, there's other factors, other pieces in there which have created a shortness of understanding,
yeah,
a fuse that is non-existent. It just goes directly to blowing up, whatever right. That thing is, right? So I think it's having that space and really being able to let go and really in some ways step back and take a look from the other person's perspective, be able to really listen and to hear, do compassionate listening, listen with an open mind, and allow the person to get out whatever it is they have to say, and that's challenging because sometimes you want to defend yourself or why you made your choices. And in the moment, the emotion that has driven whatever's coming out of you is what's happening. So shifting immediately to some other place, probably isn't going to happen. And so that's where, you come back to this idea of love is never having to say you're sorry. It's where you could stay in that space of going, okay, I'm a little frustrated, I'm a little whatever, but ultimately I love him. I think that's where you were.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's not even, it's not even about that. It's so rare that, well, first of all, the way you said what you said, I knew something else was going on. I was like, okay. I mean, I did clearly know, even though it was a little abrupt, and I was like, I don't want to play with him. Why am I going to go to this meeting? But I got that it really wasn't about me. But I also, that's 20 years later. I mean, that's an acquired knowing, and I mean, that is the offering that if we can each stand in our, knowingness, if you know your intention and who you are and how you've shown up, then sometimes you just have to let it go and go, okay, something else is happening, and I think, go ahead.
Oh, it occurs to me that really, although there was a space for me to apologize, what I didn't say was thank you. Thank you for being that space for me. Because I didn't go off somewhere else.
Right.
And that was huge. Because we all know that when people do that in situations with people who are not their 20-year partner,
right.
Stuff happens that's not pretty. And people get hurt in ways that sometimes isn't even, doesn't appear to be repairable.
Right. Right. And that's a great point. And I think that's what we'll leave this conversation with, is that I think, along with love means never having to say you're sorry, I think the fighting or the disagreeing or the conflict, I think it's such a gift to a relationship if you can move through it, because it's really, it's a place for your partner to clear their expressions and really let go of something, and it strengthens our bond. It strengthens the bond, and and then depending upon the situation, then we can both actively participate to resolve the situation, or I don't know, I can hold you in prayer. I can know the truth. I can be that space that, can walk you through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've come to the conclusion that, what did we come to the
Did we come to a conclusion?
I think I've come to the conclusion that I it's okay if you're sorry. It's okay if you say you're sorry, because that doesn't mean we can't have feelings about having to go through the discomfort. And sometimes we're sorry, and like, I'm sorry that you had to go through the discomfort. Is it a defining sorry? Like, oh, I'm wallowing in the sorrow. No, it's not that. But it's a feeling tone that, sometimes I wish it didn't have to be like this.
Right.
Just like I wish there was world peace. Sometimes I'm sorry that the world sometimes doesn't seem like as harmonious as I would like. So for me, I think go ahead and say you're sorry, and then just be attentive really to what the actions are that you put forward with that. Sorry is not an action word.
I think the other piece for me is that love means never having to say you're sorry is more about me and how I accept other people than it is about how I respond to other people, how I act, how I respond to them, what my actions are. It's about my holding them in that space of love.
And there you have it.
So that's right. Yep.
So thank you so much for joining us. I'm missing all of you because I know that you would have had so much good stuff to throw in here and help us arrive at new perspectives, but we'll be looking forward to reading it in the chat. So like us and leave your comments and let us know what topics you want to hear on the show and what you want to talk about. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Next week, we'll be back. September already, everybody. Woohoo!
Yay, it's almost fall. So go out there and rock the love, because the world needs it. Bye, everybody.